Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The midnight shift on Relay Station always felt like swimming through molasses. Lloyd drummed his fingers against the cold metal of his workstation, watching the endless stream of diagnostic data scroll across his hollow screen. The station's maintenance logs needed his attention, but his mind wandered to the bottle of synthetic whiskey waiting in his quarters. A red alert flashed across his screen, jolting him from his thoughts. Security breach in Section E7, the lower engineering decks. Lloyd cursed under his breath. Those sections were supposed to be sealed off. "Computer, show me security feed from E7, he commanded, reaching for his toolkit. The screen flickered to life, revealing shadowy corridors bathed in emergency lighting. Movement caught his eye, a flash of blue skin disappearing around a corner. "What the hell?" Lloyd muttered, grabbing his portable scanner. No ships had docked recently, and the station's crew manifest showed everyone accounted for. He made his way through the dimly lit corridors, the rhythmic hum of the station's engines growing louder as he descended. The air grew colder, his breath forming small clouds in front of him. A crash echoed from around the corner, followed by a distinctly feminine yelp. Lloyd quickened his pace, scanner raised. As he rounded the bend, he stopped dead in his tracks. A woman stood there, naked as the day she was born, with skin the color of a summer sky. She was breathtaking, tall and graceful, with curves that would make a sculptor weep. But what struck him most was the look of absolute terror in her violet eyes. "Hey," Lloyd said softly, lowering his scanner. "I'm not going to hurt you. Are you all right?" She backed away, bumping into a power conduit. Sparks showered down around her, but she didn't seem to notice. I don't." Her voice was melodic but trembling. "Where am I?" Lloyd shrugged off his jacket, holding it out to her. "You're on Relay Station. I'm Lloyd, the chief engineer. Can you tell me your name?" She stared at the jacket as if she'd never seen clothing before. Carefully, she reached out and touched the fabric. "Soft," she whispered. Then she looked up at him with those impossible eyes. I don't remember anything." "That's okay," Lloyd said, helping her into the jacket. It swallowed her whole despite her height. "Let's get you somewhere warm and we can figure this out." She grabbed his arm suddenly, her grip surprisingly strong. "You won't send me away?" "No, not if you don't want to go." The words were out before he could stop them. Every security protocol said he should report this immediately, but something in her desperate expression made him hesitate. She beamed at him, and for a moment the dim corridor seemed to brighten. "Then I'll be your pet." Lloyd choked. "My what?" "Your pet. I've seen them in the databanks I pass through. Humans keep companions they care for, yes? I want to be yours." She pressed against his side like an affectionate cat. "That's not... you're a person, not a pet," Lloyd stammered, trying to maintain some professional distance despite her proximity. "But I want to learn from you, about being human, about everything." She looked up at him through long lashes. "Please?" Lloyd pinched the bridge of his nose. This had to be the strangest night of his career. "How about we start with finding you some proper clothes and giving you a name? We can't just call you, 'Hey, you.'" She considered this, head tilted. "I like the sound. Galadria. Yes, call me Galadria." "All right, Galadria. Let's get you to my quarters before anyone else spots you. We can figure out the rest later." As they walked, Lloyd couldn't shake the feeling that his orderly life was about to become very complicated. He didn't know whether to be terrified or intrigued. "Lloyd?" Galadria's voice was soft. "Hmm?" "Your heart rate increases when I'm close. Is that normal for humans?" Lloyd nearly tripped over his own feet. Let's focus on getting you settled first." Her musical laughter echoed through the corridor. "You're amusing when you're flustered. I think I made the right choice in picking you as my human. I wasn't exactly up for selection, Lloyd muttered, but he couldn't completely suppress his smile. Back in his quarters, Lloyd managed to find some spare clothes that somewhat fit her willowy frame. As she explored his living space with childlike curiosity, he tried to make sense of the situation. A beautiful blue-skinned woman with no memories who somehow breached station security and wanted to be his pet. It sounded like the setup to a bad Hollywood romance. "Oh!" Galadriel exclaimed, pressing her hands against his viewport. "The stars are so beautiful from here. They sing differently than I remember, though I don't remember why I remember that." Lloyd approached carefully. "You remember the stars singing." She frowned. Maybe. It's like trying to catch stardust with your hands. The memories slip away as soon as I reach for them." "Well, you obviously came from somewhere. Maybe we can—" Lloyd was cut off by a sudden power fluctuation. The lights flickered and his computers went dark for a moment. Galadriel had gone very still, her blue skin seeming to shimmer slightly. "I feel strange," she whispered. The power surged again, stronger this time. Warning klaxons began to sound. "Critical power fluctuation detected in residential sector," the computer announced. "Source unknown." Lloyd watched in astonishment as tendrils of energy began to curl around Galadriel's form. She looked at him with panicked eyes. "Lloyd? I can't." The lights exploded overhead in a shower of sparks and chaos erupted across the station. "Stay calm." Lloyd reached for her, ignoring the static electricity that crackled between them. "Focus on my voice." Galadriel trembled, energy coursing visibly beneath her blue skin. The room's electronics went haywire, screens flickering, devices turning on and off at random. Her violet eyes were wide with panic. "I don't want to hurt you," she gasped, "but I can't. I can't control it." Lloyd's engineering instincts kicked in. He grabbed his portable dampening field generator from his toolkit and activated it at maximum power. The energy surrounding Galadriel wavered but didn't dissipate completely. "Emergency protocols engaging in residential block A," the computer announced. "Evacuation recommended." "Like hell," Lloyd muttered. He couldn't evacuate, not with Galadriel in this state. She'd be discovered, and he had a feeling that would end badly for everyone. "Make it stop," she pleaded, hugging herself tightly. "The energy! It burns!" Lloyd did the only thing he could think of. He pulled her into his arms, dampening field generator pressed between them. Her skin felt electric against his, but he held on. "Focus on something concrete," he instructed. "The sound of my heartbeat, the feeling of the floor beneath your feet. Anchor yourself." She pressed her face into his chest, fingers clutching his uniform. "Your heart. It's so steady, like a star's pulse." Gradually, the energy surrounding her began to subside. The station's system stabilized, though damage alerts continued to ping on Lloyd's communicator. "That's it," he murmured. "You're doing great." When she finally looked up at him, her eyes were shimmering with unshed tears. "I could have killed you, but you didn't." Lloyd realized he was still holding her and stepped back awkwardly. "Though I think we can safely say you're not exactly human." A weak laugh escaped her. Was it the blue skin that gave it away? More the whole living energy reactor thing, actually. Lloyd began checking systems on his tablet. "Looks like you knocked out power to half the residential sector. I'll have to make up some story about a plasma conduit malfunction." "You're going to lie? To protect me?" Galadriel tilted her head, studying him. "Why?" Lloyd paused, considering. It was a damn good question. By all rights, he should report this immediately. An unknown alien with dangerous powers loose on the station. It was a security nightmare. "Because you're scared," he said finally, "and lost. And I've been both of those things before." Besides, he added with a slight smirk, what kind of owner would I be if I abandoned my new pet at the first sign of trouble? Her face lit up. Then you'll keep me. Temporarily, he stressed, until we figure out who you are and where you came from. And no more calling yourself my pet in front of others. It'll raise too many questions. What should I call myself then? Lloyd ran a hand through his hair. We'll say you're a visiting xenobiologist studying the station's deep space adaptation systems. That'll explain any odd behavior or questions you have. Clever, she approved, then yawned widely. I feel heavy. Energy discharge must have taken a lot out of you. Take the bed. I'll sleep on the couch. But no arguments. Part of being human is needing rest. He pointed firmly at the bedroom. Go. She gave him an amused look. Are all humans this bossy with their pets? Only the good ones. Now sleep. As Lloyd settled onto his couch, listening to Galadriel's soft breathing from the other room, he wondered what exactly he'd gotten himself into. Tomorrow he'd have to deal with the power surge damage, create a cover story, and somehow keep an amnesiac alien with energy powers hidden on a space station. Computer, he whispered, remind me to requisition a stronger dampening field generator in the morning. Acknowledged, the computer replied. Also, Chief Engineer, your heart rate is still elevated. Lloyd threw a pillow at the speaker. He had a feeling he wasn't going to get much sleep tonight. Morning came too soon on Relay Station. Lloyd awoke to the sound of crashes from his kitchen unit, followed by musical humming. He bolted upright, momentarily confused, before the events of last night flooded back. Galadriel, he called out cautiously. Lloyd! She appeared in the doorway wearing one of his spare uniforms, rolled up at the sleeves and ankles. I'm learning to make breakfast. Your food preparation unit is quite primitive, but fascinating. He surveyed the chaos in his kitchen. Broken eggs scattered across the counter, something smoking in a pan, and what looked like coffee grounds dusting every surface. I see you've been experimenting. Yes, though I don't understand why the round protein pods are so fragile. She held up a mangled egg. And your beverage crystals taste nothing like stellar matter. Lloyd choked. You tried to eat raw coffee grounds? Was I not supposed to? Her violet eyes widened innocently. The computer said humans needed to function in the morning cycles. Despite himself, Lloyd laughed. Let me show you how it actually works. As he demonstrated the proper use of the coffee maker, his comm unit chirped. Chief Engineer Lloyd to Command Center. Maintenance report requested on last night's power surge. Galadriel tensed beside him. Lloyd squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. Stay here. Don't answer the door or touch anything else in the kitchen. I'll handle this. But, promise me. She sighed dramatically. Fine, but hurry back. I want to learn more about human rituals. The command center was buzzing with activity when Lloyd arrived. Station Commander Davis looked up from her desk with a frown. Care to explain why half our residential sector lost power last night, Chief? Lloyd launched into his prepared explanation about plasma conduit fluctuations and maintenance cycles. It was technically possible, if unlikely, and he doctored the logs to support his story. And you handled this alone? Davis's eyes narrowed. Without calling your team? It was a simple fix. Didn't see the need to wake anyone. Lloyd kept his expression neutral, though his heart was racing. Davis studied him for a moment longer. Well, ensure it doesn't happen again. We have important visitors arriving next week. The last thing we need is unstable systems. Back in his quarters, Lloyd found Galadriel sitting cross-legged on his couch, surrounded by floating data pads. Your information storage is so inefficient, she commented without looking up. I've reorganized your entire database using quantum threading principles. Lloyd stared at the hovering devices. You can interface with our systems directly? Of course. though your binary code is adorably simple." She waved a hand and the datapad settled gently onto the coffee table. "Did your commander believe your story?" "For now. But we need to be more careful. And maybe explain how you're able to do all this?" Galadriel's face fell. "I wish I knew. It feels natural, like breathing, but when I try to remember where I learned it..." She pressed her hands to her temples. "It's like looking into a black hole." Lloyd sat beside her, noting how she immediately shifted closer. Her need for proximity both unnerved and intrigued him. "What's the first thing you do remember clearly?" "Darkness. Cold. Then..." She smiled softly. "You. Your voice, telling me I was safe." Their eyes met, and Lloyd felt that now familiar jolt of electricity between them. He cleared his throat and stood quickly. "Right. Well, if you're going to stay here, we need to establish some ground rules." "Like pet training?" she asked eagerly. "Like roommate boundaries," he corrected firmly. "First, no more power surges. We need to work on controlling your abilities." "Agreed. Though they seem to flare up most when you're near." She gave him a sly look. "Perhaps we should practice very close proximity to build my resistance." Lloyd felt his face heat. "Second rule, no flirting with the chief engineer." "Is that a human regulation?" She smiled innocently. "I don't remember seeing it in the station protocols I reviewed." Before Lloyd could respond, a security alert blared through the station. "Attention all personnel. Unregistered energy signatures detected in Residential Block A security teams en route for investigation." Galadriel's playful expression vanished. "They're looking for me." "Not if I can help it." Lloyd grabbed his toolkit. "Time for your first lesson in hiding in plain sight." "Take off the uniform," Lloyd commanded, rummaging through his storage unit. "Quick!" Galadriel raised an eyebrow. "I thought you said no flirting." "This isn't just..." Lloyd pulled out a sleek environment suit from his emergency gear. "Put this on. Your blue skin has chromatic properties. Maybe the suit's camouflage system can help mask it." As Galadriel changed, Lloyd's mind raced through possibilities. The security scan would detect her unique energy signature unless... Hold still. He adjusted his dampening field generator, modifying its frequency. "This might feel strange." "Everything feels strange on this station," she murmured as he attached the device to her suit's power unit. "Except you." The security team's boots thundered down the corridor outside. Lloyd activated the dampening field just as his door chimed. "Chief Engineer, open up for inspection." Lloyd pressed a finger to his lips, motioning Galadriel to stand behind him. "Override. Authorization Lloyd Alpha 7. The door slid open, revealing Security Chief Martinez and two officers, scanners raised. "Routine check, Chief. We detected some unusual readings." Martinez trailed off, noticing Galadriel. "Who's this?" Lloyd stepped forward smoothly. "Dr. Galadriel, xenobiologist. She's here studying our deep space adaptation systems." He pulled up a doctored authorization on his datapad. "Arrived last night on the supply shuttle." Martinez frowned at her scanner. "Our sensors picked up some anomalous energy readings from this sector." "Probably interference from my research equipment," Galadriel spoke up, her voice calm and professional. "The quantum resonance analyzers can be temperamental." Lloyd held his breath as Martinez swept the scanner over them. The dampening field held. "Seems clean now," Martinez said finally. "But I want those equipment specs on my desk by tomorrow, Doctor." "Of course." Galadriel smiled brilliantly. "I'm always happy to cooperate with station security." After they left, Lloyd sagged against the wall. That was too close. "I don't know," Galadriel mused, examining herself in the mirror. "I think I make quite a convincing scientist, though this suit is very confining. Better than a holding cell in security." Lloyd checked the dampening field readings. We need to figure out what triggers your energy surges before. He turned to find her directly in front of him, barely inches away. Her violet eyes seemed to glow faintly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for protecting me, for not turning me in. I—" Lloyd's throat felt dry. "It's nothing. It's everything." She reached up, trailing fingers along his jaw. "My brave, clever human." The lights flickered ominously. Lloyd gently caught her hand. "Energy control, remember?" "Sorry." She stepped back, looking sheepish. "It's harder to contain when I'm emotional." "Then we'll work on that too." Lloyd pulled up the station schematics on his datapad. "There's an old testing chamber in the lower levels. Shielded, isolated. We can practice there. Will you stay with me?" There was vulnerability in her voice that made his chest tighten. "Someone has to make sure you don't blow up my station." He tried to sound gruff but couldn't quite manage it. Galadriel beamed. "Then let's begin my training, though." She glanced down at the environment suit. "Perhaps we could find me something less restrictive to wear first." "One crisis at a time," Lloyd muttered, already dreading trying to requisition women's clothing without raising suspicions. As they made their way to the lower levels, he caught himself watching her fluid movements, the way she absorbed everything with childlike wonder mixed with an otherworldly grace. She was a mystery wrapped in an enigma, potentially dangerous, definitely trouble. And despite his best intentions, he was becoming more fascinated by her with each passing moment. "Lloyd?" She turned, catching him staring. "Your heart rate is elevated again." He quickened his pace. "Focus on walking normally. Scientists don't bounce." Her laughter echoed through the corridor, bright and musical. "As you wish, my human teacher." The testing chamber was a relic from Relay Station's early days. A vast circular room with reinforced walls and ancient monitoring equipment. Lloyd's footsteps echoed as he activated the backup power systems. "Perfect," he muttered, checking the readings. "Completely isolated from the station's main grid." Galadriel spun in the center of the chamber, the environment suit shimming with each movement. "It feels familiar somehow, like a dream I can't quite remember." "Let's start small," Lloyd said, adjusting the monitoring equipment. "Try to channel your energy into something controlled. Maybe—" A bolt of pure energy suddenly erupted from Galadriel's hands, striking the ceiling. The blast left a scorched mark on the metal. "Sorry." She clasped her hands behind her back, looking mortified. "It just slipped out." Lloyd pinched the bridge of his nose. "Right. Smaller than that." "I can feel it under my skin," she explained, holding out her arms. Blue energy crackled between her fingers. "Like starfire in my veins, wanting to escape. Focus on containing it in one area." Lloyd approached carefully, scanner in hand. "Your hands, for example." She concentrated, and the energy coalesced into a glowing sphere between her palms. "Like this? Perfect. Now try to—" "Galadriel, wait." Too late. She tossed the energy ball playfully toward him. Lloyd dove to the side as it exploded against the wall, leaving another scorch mark. "This isn't a game," he snapped, picking himself up. "You could have killed me." Her face fell. "I wouldn't. I'd never hurt you, Lloyd. Not intentionally." He softened his tone at her distress. "But until we understand your powers better, we need to be careful." She nodded solemnly, then tilted her head. "Your heart is racing again. From fear this time?" "From nearly being turned into atomic particles," he grumbled. "Now, let's try something simpler." For the next hour, Lloyd guided her through basic control exercises. Despite her occasional lapses in concentration, usually when she was trying to make him smile, Galadriel proved to be a quick study. "Remarkable," he murmured, studying the readings. "You're not just generating energy, you're manipulating it at a quantum level." Is that unusual for humans? Humans can't do anything like this. He showed her the scanner display. Your energy signature is unlike anything I've ever seen. Galadriel's expression grew distant. Sometimes, sometimes I dream of stars singing, of dancing through nebulae and touching the hearts of dying suns. But that's impossible, isn't it? Before Lloyd could respond, his comm unit chirped. Chief Engineer to Command Center. Priority message incoming. Go, Galadriel said quietly. I'll practice controlling smaller bursts. Lloyd hesitated. No explosions while I'm gone? She drew an X over her heart with a finger trailing blue energy. Cross my stars and hope to Nova. That's not how the saying. He shook his head. Never mind. Just stay here. In the command center, Commander Davis was reviewing a transmission with a troubled expression. Problem? Lloyd asked, trying to sound casual. Message from Central Command. They're sending investigators to look into some unusual energy readings picked up by deep space monitors. Davis fixed him with a sharp look. Readings that seemed to correspond with our power surge last night. Lloyd kept his face neutral. Coincidence, surely. Maybe. But they're particularly interested in certain quantum signatures that match an outstanding alert. She pulled up a classified file. Something about a missing person of extreme importance. Lloyd's blood ran cold as he saw the attached image. A grainy security still of a blue-skinned woman in elaborate robes. The investigators arrive tomorrow, Davis continued. I trust you'll have all system logs ready for their review. Of course, Commander. Lloyd forced a smile. If you'll excuse me, I should get started on that. He walked calmly until he was out of sight, then broke into a run. His mind raced faster than his feet. Who was Galadriel really? Why were people looking for her? And most importantly, how the hell was he going to keep her safe? The testing chamber door slid open to reveal Galadriel floating cross-legged in the center of the room, surrounded by dancing motes of blue light. Look, she called excitedly. I made stars. Lloyd's chest tightened. Whatever she was, whoever was hunting her, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He wasn't going to let anyone hurt her. Now he just had to figure out how to hide a living energy reactor from Central Command's best investigators. Lloyd? Galadriel landed gracefully. Your heart is doing that thing again. We have a problem, he said grimly. The lights in her hands winked out. Tell me. They're looking for you. Lloyd pulled up the classified image on his datapad. Does this look familiar? Galadriel stared at the photo, her blue skin paling slightly. Her hand trembled as she touched the screen. I don't. The lights in the chamber flickered violently. Energy began crackling around her form. Hey, stay with me. Lloyd grabbed her shoulders, ignoring the static shock. Focus on my voice. There's something... She pressed her hands to her temples, like shadows in my mind, cold, dark, walls closing in. The energy surged, throwing Lloyd back against the chamber wall. Monitoring equipment exploded in showers of sparks. Galadriel! He struggled to his feet. Control it! I can't! Her voice echoed strangely, overlaid with harmonic frequencies that made his teeth vibrate. The memories. They hurt. Lloyd did the only thing he could think of. He ran forward and pulled her into his arms, dampening field at maximum power. Energy coursed through him, painful but not lethal. You're safe, he said through gritted teeth. You're not trapped anymore. You're here, with me. Gradually, the energy storm subsided. Galadriel collapsed against him, shaking. I remember the room, she whispered. No windows, no doors, just walls that absorbed everything. My power, my screams, my hope. Lloyd held her tighter. How long? 5 years? 10? Time meant nothing there. She looked up at him, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. They said it was for my own good, that I was too dangerous to be free. Who said that? I don't... It's still fuzzy. She touched his chest where energy burns had singed his uniform. I hurt you. I'm fine. He caught her hand, surprised by how small it felt in his. But we need to move fast. The investigators arrive tomorrow. Galadriel straightened, squaring her shoulders. Then we should run. I won't let them take you down with me. No. Lloyd's voice was firm. Running would just confirm their suspicions. We need a better plan. What do you suggest? A crazy idea began forming in Lloyd's mind. They're expecting to find unauthorized energy signatures. So let's give them exactly what they're looking for, with a perfectly reasonable explanation. Galadriel raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. The station's deep space adaptation systems are due for their annual quantum calibration, a process that, coincidentally, produces energy signatures very similar to yours. And Dr. Galadriel, the xenobiologist, just happens to be here studying these systems. Lloyd grinned. Now you're getting it. Clever human. She stepped closer, trailing a finger down his chest. But won't they want to interview this mysterious doctor? That's the risky part. You'll have to convince them you're exactly who we say you are. He caught her hand before it could wander lower, which means no floating, no energy bolts, and definitely no calling me "you're human" in front of them. She pouted. You take all the fun out of being a fugitive. I'm serious, Gala. The nickname slipped out before he could stop it. These people, they're dangerous. Gala? Her eyes lit up. I like that. It sounds right somehow. Focus. We need to get you trained in basic human behavior before the station's alert system blared to life. Attention all personnel. Incoming vessel detected. Central Command investigators arriving ahead of schedule. Prepare for docking procedures. Lloyd's curse would have made a space dock worker blush. Change of plans, he said, grabbing Galadriel's hand. Crash course in being human, starting now. As they hurried through the corridors, Lloyd tried to ignore how perfectly her hand fit in his, or the way his heart rate increased when she pressed close to avoid passing crew members. He had roughly 2 hours to turn an amnesiac energy being with a penchant for floating and shooting starfire into a convincing xenobiologist. What could possibly go wrong? First rule of being human, Lloyd instructed as they hurried back to his quarters. Maintain personal space. Like this? Galadriel pressed herself closer to him, her breath tickling his ear. Exactly not like that. He stepped away, trying to ignore the tingling sensation where she'd touched him. Humans, especially professional ones, keep their distance. But your body temperature rises when I'm close. She tilted her head. Isn't that a positive response? That's not relevant. Lloyd keyed open his door, checking the corridor was clear. Now, your cover story. You're Dr. Galadriel. Nova, she supplied. It feels right. Dr. Galadriel Nova, visiting xenobiologist from the Centauri Science Institute. You're here studying quantum resonance patterns in deep space adaptation systems. She absorbed this with remarkable speed, her bearing shifting subtly. Suddenly she looked every inch the professional scientist, despite wearing his borrowed environment suit. The recent energy fluctuations are consistent with standard calibration procedures, she recited perfectly, even adding a slight academic inflection. Though the quantum signature variations suggest fascinating implications for dark matter interaction. Lloyd stared at her. That was actually impressive. I told you I learned quickly. She smiled, then frowned at a passing reflection. Though perhaps not quickly enough. My appearance. Right. Lloyd accessed his terminal. Computer. Emergency requisition. Female officer's uniform. Science division. Priority authorization. Request denied. insufficient clearance for emergency clothing requisition. Lloyd swore under his breath. Of course, because nothing can be easy. The investigators will find it suspicious if I'm dressed like this, Galadriel noted, gesturing to the environment suit. A knock at the door made them both freeze. Chief Engineer, Commander Davis's voice. A moment of your time. Hide, Lloyd hissed, pushing Galadriel toward the bedroom. Hiding is suspicious, she whispered back. Let me handle this. Before he could stop her, she straightened her posture and called out, Come in, Commander. The door slid open. Davis's eyes widened slightly at the sight of Galadriel in the environment suit. Dr. Nova was just assisting me with some equipment calibrations, Lloyd said quickly. Unfortunately, there was a coolant leak, necessitating emergency decontamination of my clothes, Galadriel finished smoothly. Most embarrassing. I don't suppose you could help expedite a new uniform requisition, Commander? These suits are dreadfully uncomfortable for detailed research work. Davis studied them both for a long moment. I wasn't aware we had a visiting scientist aboard. Last-minute arrangement through Central Science Division, Galadriel replied. The energy fluctuations provided an perfect opportunity to study quantum resonance patterns in isolated deep space environments. She smiled disarmingly. Though I'm finding the station's chief engineer even more fascinating than the physics. Lloyd choked slightly. Davis's eyebrows rose further. I see. The commander's expression was unreadable. I'll have a proper uniform sent up immediately, Doctor. And perhaps you'd both join me for dinner? The investigators will want to review your research, I'm sure. We'd be delighted, Galadriel said before Lloyd could object. After Davis left, Lloyd collapsed onto his couch. That was either brilliant or terrible. She suspects something, Galadriel observed, perching beside him. But she's not sure what. Better to keep her close and controlled than let her investigate independently. Lloyd turned to stare at her. Who are you really? I wish I knew. She touched his hand gently, a small spark jumping between them. But I'm starting to think I was someone important. The classified alert, the investigators, your powers. Lloyd interlaced his fingers with hers, despite his earlier warnings about personal space. Whatever's going on, I'm involved now. No turning back. You could still turn me in, she said softly. Save yourself. Not a chance. He squeezed her hand. Though, if you could avoid flirting with me in front of the commander from now on, that would be great. Galadriel grinned mischievously. But your elevated heart rate is such excellent cover for our story. Speaking of cover, Lloyd checked the time. We have exactly 1 hour to teach you how to eat like a human before dinner. How hard can it be? Lloyd remembered the morning's kitchen disaster. Let's start with, don't try to drink the coffee grounds and work up from there. As he began explaining basic table manners, he couldn't shake the feeling that this dinner was going to be either a masterclass in deception or an absolute disaster. Knowing his luck lately, probably both. Lloyd was about to start the dining etiquette lesson when a realization hit him. Wait, the photo they sent, why didn't Davis recognize you? Galadriel paused in her attempt to properly hold a fork. Show me the image again. Lloyd pulled up the classified file. The woman in the photograph was unmistakably blue-skinned, but her features seemed different somehow, more regal, harder with elaborate facial markings and an ornate headdress. That's strange, Lloyd muttered, looking between the image and Galadriel. It's like looking at a different person wearing my skin, Galadriel finished. She touched her face, then the screen. The basic features are similar, but something's changed. Even my skin tone is softer now. Lloyd pulled up his scanner, running it over her face. Your cellular structure is in constant flux at a quantum level. It's subtle, but he showed her the readings. You're literally changing form at a molecular level. Is that why my memories are so fragmented? Galadriel's voice trembled slightly. Am I becoming someone else? No, Lloyd said firmly. Whatever's happening, you're still you. The you I found in that corridor. She smiled weakly. The me who wants to be your pet? The you who needs my help, he corrected, though he couldn't help returning her smile. And right now, that means teaching you how to survive dinner with Commander Davis and the investigators. A chime announced the arrival of her new uniform. Galadriel disappeared into the bedroom to change while Lloyd reviewed the latest station logs. How do I look? Lloyd looked up and felt his breath catch. The Science Division uniform fit her perfectly, the blue of her skin complementing the sleek design. She'd somehow managed to style her hair into a professional updo, making her look every inch the distinguished scientist. You look, he cleared his throat, convincing. Your elevated heart rate suggests more than just convincing, she teased, then grew serious. Lloyd, what if they scan me? What if they detect my energy signature? Already handled. He held up a modified version of his dampening field generator, now disguised as a standard Science Division badge. This should mask your quantum signature enough to pass basic scans. She pinned it on carefully. Clever human. And stop calling me that, he reminded her. During dinner, I'm Chief Engineer Lloyd, your colleague helping with research. And after dinner? Her violet eyes sparkled mischievously. Before Lloyd could respond, his comm unit chirped. Chief Engineer and Dr. Nova, please report to Commander Davis's quarters. They shared a look. Ready? Lloyd asked. No, Galadriel admitted, but at least I know how to use a fork now. As they walked to Davis's quarters, Lloyd noticed station personnel giving them curious looks. Some seemed puzzled, as if trying to remember where they'd seen Galadriel before. They can sense something's different about me, she whispered. Just keep walking, Lloyd murmured back. You're Dr. Nova, respected xenobiologist. Act like you belong here. Galadriel straightened her shoulders, adopting the slightly distant air of an academic. It was remarkable how quickly she adapted, though Lloyd supposed that might be literal given her cellular structure. Commander Davis's door loomed before them. Remember, Lloyd said quietly, professional distance, no pet comments, no floating. No making your heart race, Galadriel whispered back, especially that. The door slid open to reveal Davis and two stern-looking investigators in Central Command uniforms. Dr. Nova, Chief Engineer, Davis greeted them. Please meet investigators Reese and Harris. They're very interested in hearing about your research. As they stepped inside, Lloyd caught Reese studying Galadriel intently. The investigator's hand rested near his scanner, his expression unreadable. The dinner had gone surprisingly well until Investigator Reese asked one particular question. Tell me, Dr. Nova, have you ever visited the Triandran system? The wine glass in Galadriel's hand shattered. Blue energy crackled briefly across her skin before the dampening field contained it. Her eyes went wide, pupils dilating. Images flooded her mind. Crystal spires reaching toward twin suns, a throne room bathed in starlight, and then darkness. Endless darkness. Doctor. Commander Davis's voice seemed distant. Lloyd moved to steady her, but Reese was faster. The investigator grabbed Galadriel's arm, his scanner whirring. Princess Galadriel of Triandra, he announced grimly. You're under arrest by order of the royal family. The word family triggered something deep within her. The dampening field overloaded in a burst of sparks. No, Galadriel screamed, and the room exploded with blue light. Not the room, not again. Memories crashed through her mental barriers. 5 years in a quantum dampening chamber. No windows, no doors. Just smooth, energy-absorbing walls designed to contain her power. Her parents' voices through the speakers. It's for the good of Triandra, daughter. Your power will fuel our expansion across the galaxy. Stay back, Lloyd shouted as energy coursed around her. She's not stable. She's property of the Triandran crown, Reese declared, drawing a containment device. Her power belongs to the kingdom. Those words sparked more memories. Your power belongs to the throne, her father's voice, cold and distant. A weapon to ensure our dominance. Days, months, years bleeding together in that lightless cell. Her power drawn from her body, feeding the kingdom's expansion. Her mind fracturing under the strain until, "I am not your weapon!" Galadriel's voice resonated with otherworldly harmonics. The room's metal walls began to warp under the energy discharge. Lloyd fought through the maelstrom to reach her. "Gala, focus on my voice." "They locked me away," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My own family. 5 years in darkness." "And they'll never touch you again," Lloyd promised, pulling her close despite the energy burning his skin. "I won't let them." "How touching," a new voice cut through the chaos. A tall figure in royal Triandran robes materialized in the doorway. "But my daughter is coming home." Galadriel went rigid in Lloyd's arms. "Father." King Valorian of Triandra stepped forward, his own blue skin darker than Galadriel's, marked with the same patterns from the classified photo. "Your little escapade has cost us valuable time," he said coldly. "The quantum reactor requires your power to function. Without it, our empire cannot expand." "You mean your empire?" Galadriel's voice was steel. "Built on your daughter's suffering. A princess's duty is to serve her kingdom." The king raised a hand, revealing a familiar device. Even if she must be compelled. More memories surfaced. The control collar. Pain beyond imagining. Her power ripped from her body to feed the machines. "No!" Energy exploded outward as Galadriel's full power awakened. "Never again!" The room's walls disintegrated. Warning klaxons blared throughout the station. "Lloyd!" Galadriel turned to him, her eyes glowing with stellar fire. "I remember everything now." "Then let's make sure they remember this," he replied, taking her hand despite the energy coursing through him. "Show them what a free princess can do." Energy crackled through the decimated chamber as Galadriel faced her father, her hand still clasped in Lloyd's despite the plasma burns forming on his skin. The king's cold eyes narrowed at their joined hands. "So," Valorian sneered, "the mighty princess of Triandra has fallen for a mere station engineer. How disappointingly predictable." "The only disappointment here is you, father." Galadriel's voice resonated with harmonics that made the station's metal walls vibrate. "A king who would torture his own daughter for power." Lloyd squeezed her hand, ignoring the pain. "Commander Black, get your people out of here. This isn't your fight." Black hesitated only a moment before nodding sharply. "Station emergency protocols engaged. All personnel evacuate to safe zones." As alarms blared through the station, Valorian gestured to his guards. "Take them both. The engineer can serve as motivation for my daughter's cooperation." "Touch him and I'll tear this station apart," Galadriel warned, violet eyes blazing. Energy writhed around her like a living thing. "You wouldn't dare," Valorian scoffed. "You're too soft-hearted, too weak." "She's stronger than you'll ever be," Lloyd shot back. "Strong enough to escape your prison. Strong enough to choose her own path." The king's face darkened. "Fool, you know nothing of her true nature. The power that flows through her veins could fuel an empire." He raised the control collar. "Power that belongs to Triandra. My power belongs to me." Galadriel's shout sent waves of energy pulsing through the station. Lights exploded overhead as the quantum surge overloaded systems. Lloyd watched in awe as she began to glow, her skin becoming translucent with barely contained stellar energy. She was magnificent and terrifying, a star made flesh. "Last chance, father," she said, her voice eerily calm. "Leave. Never return. Find another way to power your ambitions." Valorian's response was to activate the collar. The device hummed to life, reaching for Galadria with tendrils of dark energy. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The collar's tendrils struck out, but instead of finding Galadria, they encountered Lloyd as he stepped in front of her. He screamed as the energy meant to enslave a stellar being coursed through his human body. "Lloyd!" Galadria's cry of anguish shook the station to its foundations. She caught him as he collapsed, cradling him against her glowing form. "Worth it," he gasped, managing a weak smile. "To keep you free." Something broke inside Galadria then, not her spirit, but the last chains of restraint her father had placed on her power. Energy erupted from her in a nova of pure light, obliterating the collar and sending Valorian staggering back. "You wanted my power, father?" Her voice echoed with the song of dying stars. "Then take it all." The king's eyes widened in genuine fear as Galadria's energy surrounded him, lifting him off the floor. But instead of destroying him, she did something far worse. She showed him truth. Every moment of her imprisonment, every scream of pain, every tear shed in darkness, she poured 5 years of suffering directly into his mind. Valorian howled, clutching his head. When Galadria finally released him, he crumpled to the floor, his elaborate robe smoking slightly. "Now you understand," she said softly, "the price of your ambition." The king looked up at her with changed eyes, haunted eyes. "Daughter, what have I done?" "What you can never undo." She turned her attention to Lloyd, who stirred weakly in her arms. Healing energy flowed from her hands into his burned body. "But you can help me build something new." "The kingdom needs your power," Valorian protested, but without conviction. "The kingdom needs wisdom, compassion, love." She helped Lloyd to his feet as her glow gradually subsided. "Things I learned here, from a mere engineer who showed me more nobility than any royal." Lloyd wavered but stayed standing, supported by her strength. "So what now, princess? Going to throw your father in his own quantum prison?" "No." Galadriel's smile was sad but determined. "I'm going to make him help me fix what he broke." She faced Valorian, starting with dismantling the quantum reactor and finding sustainable ways to power our expansion, ways that don't require enslaving anyone. The king stared at his daughter, truly seeing her, perhaps for the first time. Gone was the weapon he had tried to forge. In her place stood a queen, tempered by suffering but not broken by it. "The council will resist," he warned. "Then they'll deal with both of us." Lloyd's voice was rough but steady. "Because where she goes, I go." Galadriel's hand found his again, energy sparking between them. "My father wanted to use my power to build an empire through force. Instead, I'll use it to build one through choice. Starting with choosing you, my clever human." "Still going with the pet thing, huh?" Lloyd's attempt at a smirk turned into a wince. "Always." She kissed him then, heedless of her father's presence or the station's continuing alarms. Energy flowed between them, healing his wounds and binding them together in ways that defied quantum physics. When they parted, Lloyd noticed Valorian watching them with an unreadable expression. "Your Majesty," Lloyd said formally, "I don't suppose you'd consider giving your blessing to a commoner who loves your daughter. You would dare ask for a princess's hand." The king's voice held a shadow of his former arrogance. "No," Lloyd replied steadily. "I'm asking for Gala's hand. The woman who makes terrible coffee, calls herself my pet, and has more courage in her little finger than your entire royal guard." A sound escaped Valorian that might have been a laugh or a sob. "It seems I have much to learn about both courage and love." He straightened, drawing on centuries of royal dignity. You have my blessing, Engineer Lloyd. Try to keep her from blowing up too many space stations. Speaking of which, Galadriel gestured at the destruction around them. Perhaps we should help Commander Black restore power before discussing wedding plans. Lloyd groaned. The maintenance reports for this are going to be hell. Language, darling, she teased. You're speaking to the future queen of Triandra. And her very confused father, Valorian added dryly. As they worked to stabilize the station's systems, Lloyd watched Galadriel directing repair crews with the same grace she'd shown manipulating quantum energy. She caught him staring and winked, sending a small spark his way. I can feel your heart racing from here, she called out. Just thinking about explaining to my mother that I'm marrying an alien princess who can bench press a star, he called back. Former alien princess, she corrected. Soon to be alien queen, with a very human king by her side. Looking at her, blue skin glowing softly, violet eyes full of love and mischief, Lloyd knew he'd never regret stepping between her and that collar. Some things were worth burning for. My queen, he said softly. She smiled, and all the stars in the galaxy seemed dim by comparison. 3 years later. The crystal spires of Triandra's royal palace caught the light of twin suns, sending rainbow refractions dancing across the throne room. Lloyd adjusted his formal robes, still unused to their weight after years of station uniforms. Stop fidgeting, Galadriel murmured from her throne beside his. You look very kingly. I look like I'm playing dress-up, he muttered back. Remind me again why we're doing this. Because our daughter is being presented to the council, and tradition demands full regalia. She touched her swollen belly where their second child grew. Though I agree these robes are ridiculously impractical. Lloyd watched as their 3-year-old daughter toddled into the throne room, her skin a perfect blend of her parents' pale blue that seemed to shimmer with contained energy. Little Nova had inherited her mother's power and her father's irreverent attitude toward protocol. Mama! Papa! Nova floated several feet off the ground, giggling. Look what I can do! No floating during the ceremony, sweetheart, Lloyd called out, fighting a smile. Remember what we practiced? Nova pouted, but landed gracefully. Walking is boring. So is paperwork, but your father does it anyway, Galadriel said with a wink at Lloyd. Usually. I delegated those maintenance reports to your father, Lloyd protested. He enjoys them. It was true. Former King Valorian had found an unexpected talent for administration after stepping down. He doted on his granddaughter and spent hours teaching her both royal protocol and quantum mechanics, though Nova preferred making tiny stars dance in her palm like her mother. As the council members filed in, Lloyd reflected on how much had changed. Triandra had transformed from a military empire into a center of learning and innovation. The quantum reactor was now a public university, teaching ethical applications of stellar energy. And he was no longer afraid of connection, of family, of love. Your heart's racing again, Galadriel whispered, taking his hand. Just thinking how lucky I am that you decided to be my pet, he whispered back. She laughed, the sound still musical as starlight. Best decision I ever made. Nova bounced impatiently before them, a tiny star in human form, ready to take her place in a new kind of kingdom, one built on love instead of power. Lloyd squeezed his wife's hand as the ceremony began. Some stars, he had learned, were worth burning for, worth living for, worth building a future around. Galadriel's answering squeeze sent a familiar spark of energy through him. Their love had not only healed them both, it had healed a kingdom, and that was a power greater than any quantum reactor could contain.